Everybody, it is 2024, and what you guys don't know is we actually just did a whole session and did not record it. So, Unarmored Talk podcast, first episode to kick off the year, and I have an amazing guest who came on the show to remove his armor to help other people gain a better understanding that we are all emotional beings, man. But to
Yes.
think is a choice. Welcome to Unarmored Talk podcast, first episode of 2024. We have Chaplain Michael Washington, Hargrave
Yes.
Military Academy, and he's also a veteran in a couple of branches of service. Microphone over to you,
There you go.
Chaplain.
Glad to be here, so Major. Appreciate it so very much. It is a pleasure. Welcome to 2024. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you very much for the
No,
invitation.
thank you. Thank you. I'm honored, man, to host you. Before we get into our amazing guest today, a couple of things real fast. Last year, thank you, Unarmored Talk fans, and that's audio, video, everyone. We generated almost 800, over $800, just shy of $1,000 that we donated to Still Serving Incorporated. And if you get on the website, we actually paid for their skill-based event that was held December 4th of 2023 at Hilton Greenville. So there's a nice video on the landing page. Hey, you guys are helping us break that poverty cycle through positive skill development. Keep sharing the episodes, keep watching, and please help me to continue to make a difference while I'm living on this earth. And you can join me in that effort to do so. We're done with the admin. Please, Chaplain, can you tell the listeners and viewers just a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing. As somebody said, I am a veteran. Served 8 years in the Marine Corps. I literally got out of the Marine Corps, was out for 15 years, and then went back into the military, went to the Army, stayed in the Army for 4 years, and I retired. I was medically retired in 2016. Went back to college, and I ended up landing in Chatham, Virginia. Now I get to serve as the chaplain at Hargrave Military Academy. Cannot see myself any other place than here. Absolutely love what I get to do every day.
And everybody, I had a chance to see that firsthand last year. And I'm telling you guys, I got a permanent tan, so you can't see me blushing. I'm blushing with my eyes. But it was just amazing to see a chaplain in his passion, not a job.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and more importantly, watching the relationship and interaction with those young students up there, those amazing professionals, those males that's in that school about to do amazing things. But let's talk about that, Chaplain. From my
okay.
basic understanding, you land this job, you
Mm-hmm.
accept the job offer, super excited,
Super excited.
and then
Everything goes crazy. so so I got my job in 2020. And Chatham, Virginia is about 2 hours from North Carolina, from Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I was actually stationed at when I retired. So when I got the job, I was hired as a TAC officer, which is a military component. But I was hired in October of 2020. I was literally driving 2 hours back and forth. I would stay on campus 2 or 3 nights a week or whatever. Well, in November of 2020, I got diagnosed with COVID. Like everybody else, I got diagnosed with COVID. But because I'm from Texas, we do everything big in Texas. So I got the big version. And I'm going back and forth to the hospital, to Womack Army Medical Center. I'm going back and forth there. I'm trying to drive back to work or what have you. They're taking x-rays because at the time there wasn't anything that they really knew to do about COVID. I think they gave me some ibuprofen or something, and some NyQuil. Go home, coughing, aching, stomach head, fever, so you can rest medicine. But anyway, I got over the COVID and I was able to go back to work. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call from the doctors and they were like, "Hey, one of the x-rays that we took didn't come out. We see something on there we don't like. So we want you to come back in." They did a biopsy. The biopsy came back. I had small cell lymphoma in my right lung. And they were like, "We've caught this thing extremely early. We'd like to, run you through 6 months of chemo, and let's just tackle it early." Me, in my arrogancy, all I could think of was like, oh Lord, I don't want to lose my hair. But but I
Well,
went
don't
through
worry
6
about it.
months.
You have a friend in your network that can walk you through that, Chaplain.
You got there. So I did chemo, and I
Mhm.
kept it a secret. I didn't tell anybody because I knew that I didn't have things in order, you
Mm.
know. So if I would have, if the Lord would have taken me here, I would have, I was embarrassed. So anyway, but I made it through chemo, and when I called the commandant, 6 months I'd been cleared. I called the commandant. I was like, sir, I'm cleared. I'm ready to come back to work. He says, man, it's great. He says, but I don't have a position for you. And
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
huh? He says, but I just found out that our chaplain is resigning. And he says, and I think that you'd be perfect for the job. I took that position and I started in August of that year of 2021.
Mhm.
And I have never looked back. Like there's nothing else that I would ever want to do. And so now I get the privilege and the honor of serving over 170 cadets, 50 faculty and staff, meeting them where they are for their emotional, spiritual, and just relational needs. So that's where I'm at now, man. And I'm loving it. Oh my
I
God, I'm loving it. So
trust. I know. I hope other folks can get a chance to experience what I experienced with you in person.
yeah.
And the one thing I noticed up there, you're an open book,
Oh
Chaplain.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
and and
Absolutely.
and I believe that didn't just happen. So
No.
talk to me about being that being that chaplain. Potentially, people have put you in this elevated position, and now being this open book in that role.
So one of the things that I learned early, I've been in ministry for 23 years. As long as I've been married, I've been in ministry. And in ministry, as in almost any leadership position, you have those individuals that will have a tendency to look at you from the
Mhm.
perspective of you having everything together. Their perception versus your reality could be as far as night is from day. So they look at you because of whatever position or whatever title or whatever stature you have, and they make these presumptions about you. As a chaplain, of course, and in ministry, people have a tendency to say, okay, well, because you're always speaking positive words, you always got a smile on your face, surely you've got everything together. But that's
Right.
not, that wasn't the case. The true case, the reality versus the perception was I had a ton of problems that I was dealing with. I had problems that were unresolved, problems that were untalked about, problems that were undealt with. And I was
Mm.
carrying them around invisibly, almost like in the Marine Corps. When I was in the Marine Corps, we had this thing called an Alice pack, big, huge backpack. So if you can imagine me having on this invisible backpack, and
Mm.
as men, what we do is we put our problems that we're embarrassed about. We put our issues that we're ashamed to talk about. We put our shortcomings that we won't discuss. We put them in our pack. We put them in our Alice pack, our invisible Alice pack, and we walk around with them, and they don't go away. They don't get resolved. They just pile up. They pile up over and over, and we just take problems and we put them, and you look at us from the front, we got a smile on our face. But if you could see us
Mhm.
in reality, we're walking around with tons of unresolved problems. And so for me, at some point in time, by God's grace, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but for some reason, I decided to not only take my pack of problems, because people tell you to leave your problems behind. No, I took my pack off and I unpacked it. I began dealing with all this unresolved. I pulled in there's a bankruptcy in there. I pulled in there, there's a child out of wedlock. I pulled in there, there's financial problems. There's, emotional problems, social. I pulled all that stuff out and began to share it to become vulnerable and humble. But in doing that, it was empowering both to me and to those that I shared it with. And I was careful to whom I shared it with, but still I shared it, and
Yeah,
it me now I get to walk with no weight.
right.
I walk in the freedom of who I am, and probably more importantly, whose I am. So,
Yeah, and I like that too, because because a lot of times, especially folks in the military, they don't
mhm,
have a problem running to the sound of gunfire
mhm,
or
mhm.
or calamity.
Yeah,
No issues deploying in defense of anything of
right.
people who can't defend themselves, but yet they don't. A lot of them don't have the courage to run towards their problems,
Their own,
and like
yeah,
you
their
said,
own.
and
Absolutely.
don't leave the pack on the ground. It's yours. You could take
Yeah.
it off,
Yeah, you can
but
take it off.
unpack
You
it
you have to take it off, but you got to unpack it though.
and you keep it.
Yeah, that's right.
You
That's
can
right.
I like that
That's right.
metaphor. It's so and I love how you mentioned how it made you feel, how you didn't realize how much weight was on you,
Yeah.
and then your personality, your emotional state, your health. And so speaking of that, do you
Mhm.
find do you find a better connection, and especially as a chaplain, with those you serve because they
Yeah.
know you're just not this you're authentic, right? There's
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
you are
Absolutely.
you are authentic. It's not
Yeah.
that like my buddy Jerry Washington has his book called Dr. Washington's called Simulated Realities. You're not one person on Instagram and then
Hmm.
who is this person
Hmm. Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Facebook?
Exactly. Exactly. So what one of my philosophies, and I have several philosophies in life that I literally live by. But one of the things that I have a philosophy of is that I have the privilege, I get the privilege of serving over 170 boys. And I do that by earning the right to be heard in their lives. Just because I'm an adult doesn't give me the right to speak into their lives. Just because I'm a man doesn't give me the right. Just because I'm a veteran doesn't give me the right. Just because I'm African American doesn't give me the right. I still have
Mhm.
to earn that right. And I earn that right by being intimate with them, by being intentional with them, and by being intense with them. So it's intense, it's intentional, and it's intimate. When I say intimate, Dr. Miles Monroe says it best. He says intimacy into me, see. And it's that intimacy that is that vulnerability that we as men and as veterans have to learn how to unveil. We have to learn how to let our guard down and know that releasing these things is releasing the enemy's power in your life. As long as you've got things a secret, as long as you got things that you're trying to hide from others, the enemy is like, yeah, that's good. We'll just keep that a secret. That'll be just between us.
Mhm.
Just keep it in the bag, you know. But it's a weight and it's a burden. So I've learned to just be transparent. Again, like I said, in context, because I have certain men in my life, different kind of, I guess, different values in my life, different roles. I've got my older Pauls, I got my Barnabases, and I got my Timothys. And I don't share everything with my Timothys that I share with my Pauls. So
Yeah, and the power of a network and mentors and a group of diverse mentors. Know your audience, like Chaplin said. There's certain groups that they're capable of
yeah,
even receiving what you're about to say to
yeah,
them. Then there's some other folks you might say something like, "Whoa!"
yeah,
And
right,
so
it might throw you off.
you're
So,
like, "Mario,
uh,
I didn't know you were dealing with that. I'm sorry to drop that on you." But
my mentor Bill Page told me one time. He says it's okay for you to share your dirty laundry, but you ain't got to share your dirty underwear. So I said, all right.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I love it too because I've had numerous discussions with lots of people, but for the most part, the trend I have seen was men who feel being vulnerable, unarmored talk, removing your armor is not courageous. It
Right.
shows a sign of weakness. Have you ever experienced that where either your colleagues, someone in your family was very hesitant, even yourself, where they were like, "That's a sign of weakness."
Yeah, yeah. So, like for me, you know, one of the definitions that I learned was meekness. People have a tendency to associate meekness with being weak. Meekness is not weak. Clark Kent was meek. He had strength, but it was under control. And so when I deal with my issues, I deal with them in a very personal way. But I've learned that I've got to share them with trusted individuals in my life who will give me good and wise counsel. It's a humbling experience to go to someone and have them and be able to share with them when you have lost a child. Your child, I found out that my son had a son prior to my marriage who joined the Army, who committed suicide. And to be vulnerable like that, to be able to share that type of when you're at the top of your game, when you're the first African American chaplain in the 114-year history of your school, and
Right.
everything is looking good, and you find out, well, I can't tell them about this son because he's my son prior to my marriage. That's gonna they're gonna have a different attitude about me or look at me differently. I couldn't carry that burden alone. And so God showed me that he had already supplied me with men around me to support me and keep me lifted up in the midst of a trying time that I could not have done it by myself. And so that's where I'm at now. I get to serve life with some boys and make an impact into their lives, possibly potentially for the rest of their lives, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, and you are doing just that.
Right.
And so you got 170 plus young men that need you. And I'm not going to be selfish because I will keep you forever if I could, my friend. But as we close out, I'll let you go back to having so much fun. You got this amazing thought process, and you just said the word get. Can you
Yeah,
share with the audience as we
sure,
close out, Chaplain, what do you
sure.
how does that drive you?
So my attitude, I've come to the realization that our thought process manifests itself in our words. And so if I change my thought process, then I'll change my words. We have a tendency to say what we've got to do. How many times have you woke up, you say, I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to go to the store. I got to pay these bills. And when you say what you got to do, it's an obligation. It's a burden. It's a responsibility. But if you just simply change that got to the privilege that it is, which is a get to, it changes the whole outlook on what it is that you're doing. I get to go to work. I get to pay my bills. I get to get up in the morning. And so I wake up with a get to attitude every single day. And my get to attitude, I hope that my get to attitude becomes contagious, because now I get my boys walking around campus and I get to go take this test. So.
You you already got me. You see I'm smiling because I'm like, man, it's cold outside, so I get to freeze, baby.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that is
You
a
get to
bonus.
enjoy the cold weather.
I get to enjoy. Hey,
It changes the attitude of
I love it.
everything. So
I
that's
I love it. Look, with the next medical appointment, I'm gonna be like this. I get to go to medical. I get to. How much do I owe this mortgage? I get to pay this sucker.
I get to pay my bills. Absolutely.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Chaplain. I love you, and
I love
thank
you
you
too,
for
brother.
kicking off 2024 on the
Absolutely.
Unarmored Talk podcast. How can people support the Hargrave Military Academy?
Really, you can just support us by you can go to social media, hargrave.edu. See what we're doing. We're in a small town, but we've got cadets that come from all over. We've got cadets from China. We've got cadets from Rwanda. We've got cadets from Zimbabwe. We've got cadets from Germany. And we've got cadets from right around the corner, and these young men are going out into the world. Many of them not having a proper support system, so embrace a young man and become his Paul in his life, and give him words of wisdom and encouragement, but be intentional, be intense, and be intimate, and share with them, the trials and turmoils of true life, so that when they make those pitfalls, that they are prepared. So that's
I
it.
like the 3 I's, and I get to say I love you because
Yeah,
I
that's it.
get to
It's,
continue to be your friend,
it's
and I'm
absolutely
going
a
to
privilege.
continue to be blessed and get to do everything I can because you got me already pumped.
There you go.
And stop saying I got to do anything,
That's it.
and I
Now, that's
get.
it, man. And last thing is, again, changing that mentality. When you're going through problems, because the Bible says in James, it says, when we experience various trials, not if, but when, the mentality says, oh, I'm going through it. No, you're growing through it.
I like it.
Because you're going to grow through your trial. That's the reason why we have tests. We don't give tests so that because you already know the information. If you already know the information, you don't need a test. It's so that you don't know the information, or we're going to test you, make sure that you know the information so that you can move to the next phase. So when you're going through it, don't say you're going through it, say you're growing through it.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks for more episodes for this entire year. But until you hear me or I see you, you guys know how I sign off. God bless you. God bless your family members, and God bless your friends. Take care, Chaplain. Be safe,
God
every day.
bless. Thank you so very much.